Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Thursday, March 6th, 2025 by Gaia Blooming. I'm Mimi, and our energy mantra for today is I look for and recognize the divine hand of magic in the connection of everything. And when I looked at the astro for today, that was the ding word that came through, was connection. And then the song Connection by Elastica from the 90s started playing in my head. I love that song. And so then I had to play it. But that's what we're kind of looking at today as we have the moon in Gemini making the connections of the day. The moon in Gemini is connecting to Jupiter, it's connecting to the sun, and it's connecting to Saturn. Now, some of these connections are squares. And that's the thing. I feel like part of our work right now in being human is recognizing the connection of everything. The connections we have to the forest, the connection we have to the plants, the connections we have to the animals, the connections that we have to each other. Everything is connected, and we're all here ultimately to work together. But sometimes the working together is also meant to be a challenge. Sometimes it's meant to be this uncomfortable square energy that we experience. And that's because we're all here to grow and learn, and oftentimes it takes challenge and learning to figure something out that we actually grow. And so when we can keep in mind that everything has this incredible web that connects us all, sometimes we can find ways to be softer with one another. So let's look at this astro energy. We have the moon and Jupiter conjunct. Now that's at 2:17 a.m. Sleep might be a little interesting. Your minds may be a little about everything. So be aware of that mental energy in the background. But you also may get some interesting ahas from this. You also may see what it's like to be a Gemini. You may see the span of like how your brain can jump from and get from here to here in a nanosecond. And recognize that this is sometimes how stories are told, right? Because you start here, but then the brain makes all these connections to all these things, and you end up somewhere over here. And sometimes we have to recognize that in our storytelling, that we add in a lot of details, for better or for worse. And we have to recognize if our details that we're adding, if they're supporting the divine unfolding, if it's supporting this kind of stories that we want to tell. So be aware of that energy. Then we do wake up in a square between the sun and the moon. And I've been talking about that, how the mutable signs, and Pisces and Gemini are both mutable, are knowledge collectors. And Pisces connects to or collects knowledge more from the ethers, from space, from the divine, from out there, way far out there. And Gemini is more like, what's shiny in the moment? Oh, that's shiny, I'm taking that. That catches my ear, I'm taking that. And sometimes what we hear from these energies can be conflicting, but it doesn't mean that one is wrong and the other one's right, or one is right and the other one's wrong, or any combinations of those words, right? Sometimes there's different perspectives. And sometimes we haven't figured out how two things that feel like they can't be right together actually are. And this is the magic of the universe. And so when we have Pisces and Gemini energy, we do have to remember to hold a lot of space and be kind of curious to let the magic unfold, to let the connection reveal itself, which sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Our final connection of the day is the moon squaring Saturn. So again, there's that Pisces Gemini square energy going on that just might feel a little uncomfortable, because a lot of us, we want to know. Like, well, I'm trying to figure out this. I want to be the best I can be. And sometimes being our best means holding space for the curiosity and not knowing. Saturn in Pisces reminds us there is always a divine plan unfolding. And the best thing we can do, Moon in Gemini, is just keep noticing how we're connecting into the plan, how we feed our own energies and our own information in, and the storyline that we are concocting around the divine unfolding, because our stories do matter. Our stories do impact our personal energy field and the energy field of those around us. So what are these stories that you're telling? And do they line up with this higher plan unfolding? Now, I will mention, like I did yesterday, we do have Sun in Pisces building to a trine that's a favorable connection with Mars in Cancer. It's a lot of water energy. We may be having emotions come up to be processed. So be aware of that energy building in the background. That's not going to be till later on Friday that happens, but still, you're getting in close connection. And that can be part of the stories too. How we start feeling and the emotions that start running amok from how we're feeling. Now, I have 3 of these color cards today. Magic at the top. But let's look at these. Let's look at where we have this. Ooh, possibilities. I feel like that's kind of the Sagittarius state, which, to be fair, we don't have anything activating in Sagittarius. Oh, that's not true. We have an asteroid in Sagittarius right now. We don't have anything really super activating in Sagittarius. The asteroid is Juno, which can represent the energy of marriage. But holding space for the possibilities of the unfolding and holding space for the good. I think that there is enormous benefit in holding space for goodness unfolding, even when things can look dire. And I think it's important to hold goodness and space for miracles in all of our stories unfolding. And I think sometimes that can help us stay in mind-heart harmony, because when we're feeding ourselves so much doomsday, it sucks the life out of our spirits a lot of times. And I don't think that we are better when life is sucked out of our spirit. That's why I always say, watch those fear waves, because it lowers us. And ultimately, while we want to be present and in our body, we also want to be energized in divine alignment, which is not a lower energy. So finding this harmony within ourselves, recognizing creative energy running through us. Now, that being said, here's the mind card a lot. Your mind field, your stories are up to you. And here's the water card, I think, representing some of this emotional energy that is moving through. Not to mention all of the Pisces we have going on. Like, we have a lineup in Pisces. So there are fields moving through. Mental energy and the fields. And part of being good to yourself is being present for yourself in those places and letting those move through. But then knowing how to move back into your own state of mind-heart coherence, mind-heart balance, and holding space for those possibilities, making connections to the good possibilities. So the cards I pulled, black cards, which was very interesting. I read the write-up of the black cards, because some people look at black as negative, some people look at it as protective. I tend to naturally wear black, mostly because I feel like I get everything else dirty. And black can handle it. But one of the things it said is you can look at black as negative or protective, but black is also all of the colors brought together. This card reminds us to have confidence in our life, in our process, and how we're showing up. Confidence in our personal magic. We also have the card of space, which reminds us connecting to the unknown. The energy of possibility that exists in the void, in the unknown. And to be fair, everything is the unknown. We tell stories because we think like, okay, we've seen how this happened, but we are different. And I think we all have an opportunity to behave differently than people have in the past. And it is important to stay connected to that. And it's important to stay, I believe, connected to the energy of love. Because as I look through history, that is a resource that I don't see that was utilized as much as it could be. And has a potential to solve so many of the problems that I deem these things as problems in the world, right? Which may be different than your things, but love can amazingly solve it all. So I'm going to leave that there for today, making the connection to love. You can book a reading. This is the last call for eclipse readings. I'm trying to stuff some of you last minute people in. Reach out to me if you would like to do that. Besides that, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power, and may your guiding light be strong, and know that you can trust the process, and know that you are the solution. Namaste.